What's good, everybody? It's your brother Nubreed coming through with another video. In this particular video, I wanted to discuss the challenges of remaining set apart in the generation of the NPCs. That's right. See, 80 to 90% of people out there are NPCs. That leaves only 10 to 20% who can actually see what's going on in the world. Those who are enlightened, those who are socially aware and conscious. Everyone else, they simply repeat mainstream narratives. They follow all the trends. They believe whatever they're told. They follow mainstream media, whatever they're told. And they live their lives every day going through the rigmarole without questioning anything. They choose to remain trapped in the social confines of this cataclysm that we call reality, which is really a matrix. They choose to remain dumbfounded in the matrix. And those who can see become a thorn in their side because our very existence disturbs their everyday goings. They don't want to hear us speaking truth. They don't want to hear us bringing forth facts. They don't want us to bring reality, logic, deductive reasoning skills. No, none of that. They don't even want us to scratch the surface because they realize that truth requires change. See, truth requires them to make adjustments in their everyday life that they're not willing to make. Why? Because we in the NPC generation. The Bible calls it a perverse generation, where people would rather chase dopamine releases. They rather, practice escapism. And that is what's happening. And when you are one who can see what's going on in the world, it becomes rather daunting just having interactions with these individuals because you're met with a lot of your resistance. You're met with even hostility at times, and they will ostracize you. They will isolate you. And it's very difficult. And it becomes very, very much lonely, or at least we feel lonely, because a lot of the times people like us are few and far in between. You may be the only one in your state that can see. Perhaps you and your family are the only one in your town or your city who really knows what's going on. And you perhaps are yearning for those healthy interactions that will stimulate mental and spiritual growth because it's only natural that you would desire that. And it's pretty difficult to find that in this day and age. I mean, even when you look on social media, which has become pretty much a digital sharecropping system, a lot of the times the creators on social media are chasing a dollar, so they must chase an algorithm that's ran by AI. And a lot of the times this AI has control over that creator's audience far as the reach goes. A lot of these creators don't have any of the data when it comes to their audience, no email list, none of it. That's why I call it a digital sharecropping system, because they're the ones up top making the big dollars while the creators are getting pennies on the dollar. And the creators are doing all the hard work, but that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is the creators often get pigeonholed into chasing this algorithm, which is designed to curve public's perception. So they end up falling into a cog in a web and pushing narratives. And now, what does that do to us? That leaves us hungry and thirsty for authenticity, for truth. That leaves a famine, like the Bible says, not a famine of bread, but a famine of hearing truth. Why is that? Because it's not really a demand for truth. So it's difficult to find it. And it's not a demand for it because the NPCs don't want to hear that. The NPCs want to stay in their bubble. The NPCs want to walk the world dormant. And I don't say any of this without any solution. I might not have the solution, but I have some solutions, right? Um, Unlike a lot of platforms, unlike a lot of communities, on this particular community here, we do meet and greets because we understand the importance of having those real interactions with people who are like-minded. We on this platform, we have created a safe space where we could talk about the things that most people don't want to talk about in real life, right? Or person to person. You know, we talk about the things that most people out there in the world would label us tinfoil hatsmen, or they would be looking at us with the bug eyes, or looking at us like we got four heads because we simply bringing out something that's true. And to them, the reality is so harsh, they don't want to digest it. And it's challenging because when you start bringing the truth to these individuals, they glitch. I mean, they literally glitch. And some of y'all have experienced this. And these NPCs can even be in your family. They can be your immediate circle. They can be your co-workers. And your existence bothers them. So often, we get targeted because of this. We become an scapegoat. We become someone who is their enemy because we're simply bringing the truth, trying to broaden their horizons and get them to see what's happening in the world. And sometimes it could be dangerous doing that with certain gotta advise y'all, don't cast your pearls before swine. That's what the Bible says. Meaning, be very knowledgeable out here. Be, as the scriptures say, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Be careful who you are giving advanced knowledge to. A lot of the times, you brothers and sisters know things that are considered mysteries that the world should know, but they don't because they choose not to. Remember, the Bible also tells us that if you seek truth, then you shall find it. They're not seeking truth. They don't want the truth. And a lot of the times you just make yourself a target. So you got to be real wise. You got to move in wisdom out here. Because these NPCs, they be reporting to the other NPCs. They have a hive mentality. And a lot of the times they get bolder when they have a collective. These people are incapable of thinking for themselves. So they get bolder when they're in a group setting. A lot of the 10 to 20%, we're able to walk solo. We're able to do what we do, live our lives without too many people because we've been conditioned to do that because it's difficult to have like-minded people. And those times have to change in the future. I oblige you all to take to my comment section and talk about the things that you want to talk about. Whatever it may be, the things that people will look at you crazy for, talk about that in the comment section. And also when we do our meet and greets, show up to those because it's very refreshing Just being around people that can really make you feel that you're not alone. And you're not alone. You have a spiritual family. We just spread out. But nonetheless, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for catching this video. Talk to me down in the comment section. Y'all be blessed. Shalom. Peace.